Hey guys, McKenzie Fayne here. Get ready for the first ever episode of the Netflix original Spinning Out. We're going to talk about love, family, drama, and of course, the love for ice skating. Stick with us.
I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Love it. On a Monday night. Is it Monday?
It is.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
It is Monday.
We're like, wait, what's going on?
I had to think about it too.
Monday.
It is Monday. It's been a long day.
It's been a long day.
It's a new year. We're all confused.
Right.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We have so much to talk about. We are right now, first ever Netflix original season coming out about ice skating. It's called Spinning Out, and this first episode is called Now Entering Sun Valley. So I have beautiful co-hosts today, Miss Emily May.
Hi, everyone. I know. I'm so excited to talk about ice skating.
I know, and I have on the next to her is Ebone Chatman.
Hello.
All the applause for these lovely ladies. So we have so much to talk about, you guys. From, like we talked about before, I said before, family, love, drama. I mean, they packed a lot into this first episode.
There was a lot.
Let's go. Let me ask Ebone, what was your first overall thought of this episode?
I thought it was interesting. Like, it leaves you wanting more. And so I was kind of like, oh, the mom seems to have this very interesting, complex attitude and like character, right? So I was just like, what is wrong with her? Why is she? I mean, the first thing you see when you see the mom is like she's passed out with like a beer bottle in her hand. So I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And Kat, the main character, the girl, the ice skater, she seems to have a lot of responsibility on her hands, and that you can see right away. So you can already see there's like this power struggle and dynamic, like in the very first beginning few scenes.
I mean, first episodes are really hard because you have to introduce the audience to each character, and it's the first impression that you get. And so to see Carol, the mom, on the couch, you get to meet Serena, the sister, Kat, who it opens up with this montage of her. It's pretty much her running, and she's kind of having like a PTSD moment where has this really horrible memory of this horrific accident that she had at one of her ice skating events that could have brought her to the Olympics. And so there was, there's a trauma there. And so there was a lot of levels to this episode, and I think they revealed it in a slow way.
Yeah, I love the way they paralleled that. Her running and her thinking, opening with that scene, because you're like, ooh, you already know there's trauma happening.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I really loved how they did that right in the beginning. They caught our attention right away. You're like, okay, we know the problem. You know what I mean? Instead of kind of sitting there wondering,
Right.
how does the ice skating, where does this come in kind of thing? Like, we know.
Yeah.
We know what's going on.
Yeah, and you also start the dynamics of Carol and Kat, and the whole family dynamic opens up right away.
Right.
Carol's the typical stage mom.
Yeah.
Right.
Did it surprise you guys how young she looked? Like she's
Carol?
I thought she was a sister at first. Did
I
you
mean,
guys or no?
I mean, I definitely was like, who is this girl?
Yeah.
Right? Like, but then the way she was talking to the youngest one, I was like, oh, okay, that's the mama.
Yeah.
Like, I know you kind of figured it out, but definitely, yeah, she does look really young.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of know later in this episode, like you can kind of guess how young she was from what's revealed later.
That's so true, but that was like my first reaction to her. Well, before we jump into kind of getting to know Kat and the skating and everything, do you guys or have you ever like ice skated before?
Oh, man. Okay, so I did not ice skate. I mean, I loved watching ice skating as a kid. I was a dancer for a really long time.
Okay, that is very similar.
So it's you have to have the same training. I mean,
Yes.
but you're on ice. No, it's way more complicated than that. I'm oversimplifying it. But you also, but I could never, like, it takes a lot of balance and I just couldn't get my ice skating feet
No?
ready. I still try to this day, and I still can't do it.
How about you, Ebone?
No, definitely. If it's not at like when you did like the school outings at the little ice skating rink, they would take you. Yeah, that is my experience.
Yeah.
So
Honestly, I'm the same way. Like, want to go ice skating around Christmas time?
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Have
Trying not to fall.
Have you seen like ice skating in like? Have you seen shows in real life?
No, my cousins, I grew up with cousins that were hockey players.
Okay.
So if I would ever go to the rink with them, you know, there were figure skaters sometimes just like out there. So I've
Right.
kind of seen like maybe practicing, but nothing really. So this to me was so cool. And what I really liked about how they did the show, and even just by the first episode, it got me so interested in ice skating.
yeah.
And it really, my attention was really there. I loved learning about it. I played, I was gonna say professional sports for some reason. That's not true. I played
I was like, whoa, what'd you
soccer.
play?
I played competitively, obviously, and you can just see these girls. Their blisters, the injuries are just insane.
That had me on another level.
Oh.
I was feeling the pain, like looking at her feet, looking
Oh,
at.
that's-
I was like, oh,
See, but as
Like,
if you're a
I
ballet
couldn't.
dancer, like you see that, like you deal with that all the time.
Ugh.
So that for me didn't bother me so much. But I guess for someone like for audiences that aren't used to it, it could
Yeah.
be a little disturbing.
I'm used to broken noses and
broken
concussions
noses
and blood on
teeth
your
going
head.
everywhere.
Yeah, like soccer, basketball kind of thing.
right.
So yeah, that to me, I was on your
I was like, oh, I was like, ow, like I don't know, like I mean, I played basketball, but like my feet are never coming out like blistered after a
Yeah.
game.
No.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So I was just like, wow,
well, and the
that is.
injuries, the type of injuries they get they're just so intense.
it was
within
so crazy. And Jen, the friend that we get introduced to, I mean,
Ugh,
we'll talk about
that
her, but the hip
bruise, yes,
and the bruise and how it was just awful.
So you do know that this is a real sport. This is
Yes.
intense, body intensive,
Yeah.
all the way around.
But the reason why I feel like this first episode is so important is because they're addressing not only like the mental strength
Yes.
and challenges that goes into this type of competitive sport,
Yep.
but also the family dynamics, the financials, how expensive it is. It is super expensive to do. And also just the competitive nature of the drama just on the rink and outside with just like the friends you're around and the other just all of the challenges and uphill battles that goes into just doing what people love.
That's so true. And how cool to just, again, ice skating. Like we all said, we didn't really do it. It's not, football. We've
Right.
all seen shows about football and all that, or soccer or whatever. But yeah, like you said, it's so dynamic. There's so much to it. And the character development, we'll get into the characters, but overall, what did you think of the character development in this first episode?
Well, I mean, Kat is such a strong protagonist. Like we have to like her right away. And so in the first few minutes, you already are sympathizing with her.
Yes.
You already are like, oh man, she went through a really traumatic moment. She's dealing with a lot of stuff. And then you kind of don't like Carol right off the bat because she's being the really tough mom. You can kind of sense that there's something going on because Kat's like popping pills.
Yeah.
And you kind of see that there's going to be another revelation down the line, which we find out. So that the family deals with mental health issues. And so, and then Serena, you have that sister dynamic where Serena is is potentially the new rising star in this family. And that's a whole dynamic to have a younger sister kind of outshine you or being the sister.
And pretty close in age.
True. I mean,
yeah, she's 16, right?
but at the end of
15,
the
16?
day, Kat, I mean, if Kat would kind of just like get her bearings,
Mm-hmm.
she would be the star
Yep.
of the family, because people keep saying she has that it factor. So
Yeah.
she's the one who's kind of doing it to herself.
That's so true.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say to a point she's doing it to herself, but also I feel like the relationship with her mom is affecting her.
A lot
yeah.
against
Yeah,
her.
there's
and
a
her
lot
thing.
Yeah, there's a
around.
lot of things that are like, I wouldn't say it's all her. I feel like there's a lot of factors that are outside factors that are affecting what.
What?
But
what
I mean,
she
she
can do
did
in
get
the
to that point at one, right? Like she was this top rising star at one point though beforehand. So, and she still had those same factors. But now that there's been a failure, I think her mom Carol is now reacting to her a little differently. So maybe that's the dynamic she's not used to.
Yeah, so I mean, we see this fall, and then she gets hurt. So was that it? And then she was just scared to do the triple turn, and then she was like, forget this. Now I want to be a coach." And then,
Yeah, so I mean, so she talks about this senior test, the senior level test that she has to pass. And in order for you to compete in like a competitive nature, you have to like pass a certain level of tests. And so because she couldn't do that triple turn, triple jump, I think I'm saying it wrong. But because she couldn't do that in that test, like it's she has to wait another 6 months to train and figure out how to accomplish that. And so
No, I mean like back to the original injury.
Yeah.
That kind of took
That-
her
I think-
out. It's
I-
like, why would
yeah.
you give up? Why would you go to now you're going to do a coaching test?
It sounds like she had 3 months. I mean, a huge amount of recovery, and like she had
I think
a lot
she's just
of
like
trauma.
traumatized.
Yeah.
That's so I was
it's like
kind of
this
getting
trauma.
at like,
It's this fear of falling again, the fear of being embarrassed, the fear of not being successful at what she loves. So I think she holds herself back in that regard of being like, like this is what I want to do, but at the same time, I failed the test and like I just want to pass it and that's it. Like I don't even want to go any further than that. Go to the Olympics. I don't want to partner skate. Like I don't want to do any of it because she's scared.
I mean, she's 21, so that's like you're older you're older in your like
Career.
career.
she said she's always had a path. She's always had, a goal and a path that she.
It's a
and now
switch
she's
up.
kind of off the path because she, the injury totally threw her off, and
isn't it like she has to now like I think like the individual skating path of being an Olympian is now not a factor,
Okay.
right? Because I mean, there was the coach, that came up to her and was like, "Hey, like, I think
Dasha, right?
Yeah, Dasha. That it's kind of like scouting her. It's kind of like, ooh, like you're really good,
well, Dasha was scouting her for
Justin.
right? But I mean, I don't know. I would think I was kind of getting like the vibe that she was like, yeah, I'm passing the senior test to either become a teacher, and like the Olympics path is not a factor anymore, like because she was trying to get her to do the partner thing and she's like, I don't want to do that. So right, it was kind of like there's something that like is stopping her from like fully reaching that full potential that she once had.
Yeah, that's so true. So let's talk more, dive a little bit deeper into the family aspect of it. So we talked a little bit about her mom Carol, and we barely touched Serena. So we find out that Carol has bipolar.
Right.
Right? So she comes out with this, and what did you guys think of that whole scene of when we kind of just find out? Like, were you shocked? Did they set you up to feeling like you knew that was what it was, or?
I mean, I had a feeling there were underlying issues, because the Carol's reactions to things seemed to be out of place.
Yeah.
And
too high, too low.
Yeah, too high, too low. So there was
Eat this, like
Yeah.
there was a lot of highs and a lot of lows, and so I was like, oh, there's something a little bit deeper here.
Yeah.
And so when it was revealed later that she has bipolar disorder, I was like, okay, that makes sense.
Makes sense.
It makes sense, and I was like, okay, it adds a whole other layer to this family dynamic. And then with Kat's revelation, that also like adds other layers.
Yeah. What did you think?
Yeah, no, I was totally on that. Like, oh, thank goodness. Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
And I think it's actually refreshing to see this on television, because I feel like it is an issue that's like plaguing our country and the world, and people don't talk about it enough. And so I think having, January Jones like plays it really, really well, and it's such a huge issue. And so I've seen further episodes, so I won't give anything away.
But I love how you said that, because these issues, these deep, these touchy subjects are exactly what people need to see, because it is such an issue, and you don't want to just sweep it under the rug like it's nothing and nobody had, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's such a real thing.
I mean, they are like dramatizing it a little bit in the context of like, okay, an ice skating family, you know, but I think it's an issue that plagues people every day, like normal everyday people. So it's important to see it.
For sure. Yeah. So we talk about, you know, her bipolar and, you know, what was it about Serena that stood out to you guys the most?
Serena's a little catty, a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, like
I couldn't figure the girl out.
Like, because at some point it's like she does have the sympathy, right? That sympathy card, and then at some point she's also like, I'm better than you. Like that snotty, snooty thing. And it's like, I don't understand it. You know, she's getting on her sister about, you know, having this disorder. But at the same time, I kind of feel like you could have it too, girlfriend, because you're kind of like a little touch and go as well.
Yeah. So the way I see Serena is, I don't necessarily see her as catty, but I see that she's being defensive and protective of herself, because she's the younger one. She's seen, you know, in my mind, I could tell from this first episode that there's been huge arguments, like behind closed doors. There's been drama, like there's heartache. You know, there's a lot more issues there than we see right now in this first episode. And I feel like that's where those reactions are coming from. And so when I see her react like that, I think she's only trying to protect herself and her future in skating.
That's true. And we have to remember she's so young. She's so
young.
Impressionable.
Yeah, right.
At
She
this
doesn't
point.
really know how everything works.
You think your mom is, you know, gonna steer you in the right direction.
Well, and her mom was a figure skating idol as well, and then her sister is, and so to have she's a third generation figure skating possible, you know, star, and she's dealing with all of those dynamics in the household. So I don't blame her for being like that.
Well, then also think about how Kat is being treated by the mother, by Carol at this point.
Yeah,
she doesn't want to end up like that.
Right.
Yeah,
you
so
know?
she's watching, you know, so I'm a younger sibling myself. So watching like your older sister do things, you kind of take notes. You take notes and you're like, okay, let's not do this. And
yes.
So I feel like
yes, that just clicked for me.
So I feel like Serena's like, I'm taking notes and making sure I don't make the same mistakes.
That is so true. That is so true.
See, I'm an only child, so I do not relate to that one.
Do you relate to this? Anyone with siblings?
Let us know.
Let us know.
Because I guarantee anybody out there that has a sibling is like, oh my God, right now. So I mean, the family dynamic really does show through a little bit, like as you get to the end of this episode, because in the beginning I was like, you know, we talked about it in the beginning, but I'm like, is the mama drunk? And then we find out about the bipolar. So I'm like, okay, cool. Makes sense. You know what I mean? Like that. I get that. And just how they played it out with the family members. And
I mean, yeah, that one scene where she has Serena get up at like, I don't even know, the crack
Oh,
of
it's
dawn.
probably like 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah,
because
to, like,
they
do
normally
push-ups
get out.
outside.
Well, no, and do laps. So she probably ran
In the
she
snow.
ran 30 laps around the house or the block.
Yeah.
In the snow, and then probably made her do push-ups. And these are like the really hard jump.
Right.
And she's just
Push-ups
like
where you have to-
watering the flowers outside in the freezing cold
this
when
is-
Kat gets there.
It's actually quite terrifying to have that happen, and it's a moment where I think as fans watching this show, you're gonna empathize with those characters, and I feel like that's what they tried to do at that moment.
Yeah.
And then Kat is the sister that's coming in as the hero. So she's coming in and she's been through it. She's 21 years old. So you have to believe that she's been through it. And then there's that moment where Carol says pretty much like why she resents Kat. And you could see all of the anger stem out in that moment. And you realize how much Carol does not.
Yeah. So, I mean, it happens in
Does
this
not appreciate
episode, so
Kat.
we can just say it. I
Yeah.
mean, she got pregnant with her young.
Yeah.
And she was like, I was supposed to go to the Olympics. And
So assuming she was maybe 16, because I tried to do the math, so I think she was 16, 15
Love
or
it.
16.
look at her. Love
Right.
it.
Let me figure this out.
So good. How awful. Could you even imagine that?
I don't know that, but
My heart broke when,
yeah,
like, how do you even look at your daughter in the face and say that? And be like, I don't, that was crazy.
Do you feel like this moment was a little like, do you think it was forced or heavy-handed to have her just
No, because
blurt
I
out
think
like
the
that?
whole
Yes.
point.
Yes. I did.
But
I was
I
like,
also-
oh, okay. Like, I was kind of like, oh my God, but my heart did break. I was like, that's just so harsh.
It's so harsh, but I think they're trying to show you the dissociation with the disorder, right? Like there's no emotion or sympathy or empathy when it comes to like being bipolar. You either feel this way or you feel that way. It's
Well,
like
you're-
there's
you're-
no gray area.
Oh,
You're
that's a
also
good
finding
point.
there's also like a sense of not finding your foundation and sense of reality, and so you have no basis, no line, right? So you're like you're in your super high and you're super low,
Yeah.
and so you're in this mania, you're in this manic state,
Yeah.
and so right now this was her episode of where she's at this point where she's pushing.
Yeah, but Kat
She's
handled it really
pushing
well.
Serena.
She kind of was like, okay, Serena, like get inside
Yeah.
and I'm going to get you your pills. Like we
Yeah.
need to take your
Yeah.
medicine.
Your
But
lithium,
we
yeah.
know
Yeah.
what's going on here.
Yeah, exactly. So she didn't really take it as like, oh, I'm so like she was offended, but I'm saying she kind of handled it like
Well, it just shows that she's had to deal with this
Yeah.
Yeah,
before,
of
and so to
course.
see this,
Could
to
tell
see
she's
this all
responsible.
kind of, all break down and stuff is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking, but for us, I feel like where it was placed in this episode, I think it helped like as an audience member, we feel like a little like uncomfortable and it's like jarring,
Yep.
which I think that was effective where it was in this episode.
That's so true. So let's talk a little bit about the love like situation going on in
Loves
this.
it. Okay.
So first in this episode, what struck me was like the Marcus flirting in the beginning.
Super
Did you guys
cute.
pick that up?
Oh yeah.
and I was like, he's cute.
He is so
Right
cute.
away.
I was
So
like,
cute.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, this is the
There wa-
love thing. But
there was definitely some major flirting.
there was.
She has a whole boyfriend. Let's not.
She has
forget.
a whole boyfriend.
Well, first
a
of all-
full body
Yeah.
boyfriend.
She does have a boyfriend.
She's a boyfriend, okay?
And we find this out because she runs to him after
her senior test.
After
yeah.
her senior test, which we didn't even talk about the fact that she bites herself.
Thank you. I was just
Yeah.
gonna be like, let's
does
talk
bite
about that
herself.
self-harm
Yeah.
situation.
So that's a common
Wild.
like part of
Self-harm or the
self-harm.
biting?
Yeah, well, any like a form of self-harm.
The
So
okay.
I've never seen that before.
I've never seen the biting. That
Me
was the
either.
craziest thing to me.
Like you're
ever.
biting yourself so hard that you're breaking skin. That's so crazy.
I was
So
blown. I
crazy.
was literally speechless when
Yeah.
she was doing it because I saw her cover up and I was
And
like,
you're like,
oh,
what
did-
is she covering up? A bruise?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like maybe someone, like
Well,
her
because
mom
people
grabbed
fall
her
all the
or
time,
something.
or they grab. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe it's just that. And then you see after she fails, because she again psychs herself out while she's doing her senior test,
Yeah.
that she is self-harming and biting herself, and she has all these bruises on her arm because of that.
Let me ask you something. Did that in your head when you saw that, were you like, there's something wrong with her? And you thought that there was going to be more, and then obviously what we find out later in this episode, we do find out that she also does have bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, from her mother, gets it from her mother. But did you think at that point there was something wrong with her, or were you just like, what the hell?
I kind of just thought like, oh, okay, you self-harm because of the trauma that you've already experienced. Like that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, she like fell.
Perfectionist, too hard on
Yeah,
herself.
she's like too hard, and then she every time she tries to do this triple jump, she literally cannot get it. So I feel like I connected it to that. So I didn't connect it to like having any type of like bipolar.
So I kind of
disorder.
I assumed that it was part of that either because I was like checking the signs, like, okay, she was taking pills. So I noted that. And then I was like, okay, she just like had a moment of self-harm. And so I was like taking notes throughout this episode. And so I kind of like had an inkling that she was showing signs of bipolar disorder, but I wasn't sure until later.
Yeah. Until, nearly the end of the episode.
And the
we
fact
kind
that
of-
like her boyfriend brings it up, like, oh, like it's
You're
happened.
doing it
You're doing it
again.
again, which
Yeah.
means it isn't the first time. I mean, it usually comes in like high stress in environments and moments where like they feel like they can't control the moment, and so.
So, how did you think the love scene went?
Is it a love scene?
I
It's
don't know
a
what
little
to-
awkward.
I mean, it's funny that like we were just introduced to him via like text at first,
Right.
and then via the scene. It
And
wasn't
then he's
really.
at college in his
And then he's
dorm.
at college.
Right.
It was like kind of like not a really good introduction
No,
to this
but
boyfriend. But
one thing I did like was that I just felt comfortable afterwards for some reason. I'm like, okay, good.
This is
Like,
her-
she's good.
Right.
Yeah,
Like
she
her
has
safe
some,
space.
Yeah,
Right.
so I'm
She
like,
needed
this poor
a stress
girl.
reliever.
Yes,
so she had to run really far
Right.
in the snow
in the cold.
to the
go find her
university
man,
to
okay.
find romance.
And he
Yes.
no, and not even romance. He was like, "Sorry, has been a while."
yeah,
like
it
2
wasn't
seconds.
even romance. It was like 2 minutes.
Literally, that was so funny. But he was super cute and like, loving,
thinks
and
he
you can.
cares.
Well, it seemed
Yeah.
like he knew her
Yeah.
backstory and knew,
Yeah.
Yeah,
what
he
she's been
cares,
through.
Definitely.
And so
That's so true. So we did the kind of Marcus thing was we don't really know what that was. At one point, they worked together at the restaurant, so
Right.
we know that.
he's the manager.
He's the manager, and we know that he doesn't want her to quit skating. He doesn't want
Yeah.
her to do that. So he's like on her team. That's kind of all we really get from Marcus, like in this episode, not too much.
Yeah.
And then we have this boyfriend who we sleep with, and she clearly like loves him. And then so let's talk about Justin. Let's talk about him.
Let's talk about Justin. Okay.
What were your first thoughts? What?
Well, I mean, he's. I mean, when you first look at him, you're like, all right, this is this is like the typical jock,
Yeah.
like typical,
Yeah. Like I'm all that.
attitude. He has the looks. He has
The snarkiness.
the snarkiness, kind of the I'm better than everyone else kind of attitude. So I was like, okay, typical
Yep.
dude.
What about you?
Yeah,
Same.
definitely. Like he can get,
Yep.
he gets what he wants. He has his eye on the prize, and he gets whatever he wants. That's literally.
Well, he's
what
also like really wealthy and spoiled, and literally gets whatever he wants.
Yeah.
He just goes to his dad or his stepmom, and pretty much can get what he wants.
So true. And one of the first things that we see when they're doing, introducing us kind of to Justin is he's a pair skater. So he has
Yes.
a partner and he's on the
Oh,
ice.
that injury.
Oh my God. that
That
was so
was-
bad.
Terrifying.
I couldn't watch it, and then I was watching the episode again just to like get
Yeah.
stuff together,
Oh,
and I was like this.
the sound,
like,
the sound,
was
the
Bad.
sound of her
And it was just,
screaming.
it stood there and
Yeah.
stayed there in her
Ugh.
foot.
but
the
it's
fact
great.
that they picked her up though, right? I was like,
yeah, well,
you
they had to
shouldn't be.
get her off the ice.
I know, but I don't know because I feel like you're moving the thing around in your foot now.
I
I don't know.
I mean,
So-
like, but what's crazy is like they seem to like she was reacting. I mean, obviously the injury was really intense, but everyone else was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that happened," and it like took her off. Like it was like this happens every day.
But
and
it probably does.
I cannot.
Think about how many times somebody's foot, like you are skating on ice, people with like knives on your
yeah,
feet.
you
like,
have 9
Right.
feet.
You know what I mean? It's like it's gonna happen. So many
Oh
things like
my
that.
gosh. They need to
I
make a
always-
steel boot or
I
something.
was always
like-
terrified
Yeah.
of like landing on my hands and then having someone run over my hands.
Oh my gosh! I literally had that same.
That's my
thing.
nightmare.
That is
ice skating.
Yes,
Yeah.
because I mean, even my little ice skating at the brink or whatever.
my going like 1 mile per hour.
All I'm gonna say, that is literally my
Yeah.
fear, like falling and having someone just like
Really?
cut off all my fingers.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
go on.
Oh my
Yes.
Let's move on. Let's
Yeah.
Yeah,
go.
that
It's
injury
insane.
was pretty crazy. So
So now
she gets out.
So now he's down a partner.
So he's down a partner. And Dasha, who we're introduced to
Yes.
slightly sporadically through the episode, is, really has her eye on Kat. Like,
Oh, yeah.
seriously. Like,
Yeah.
really wants her to just be so involved.
Mhm.
So, I mean, what did you think about that whole situation with Dasha just pushing Justin?
Well, I mean, pushing
Kat
Kat
onto-
onto Justin. I mean, I think that Dasha knows. I mean, she's been around ice skating her whole life,
That's
so
true.
she knows. She knows when she
Talent.
sees talent and when she sees someone that can, bring her her student up to Olympic level. So I think she had the right move of trying to like eye Kat and get her involved in the pair skating.
So true. So Justin's parents, we'll kind of move a little bit forward, or dad and stepmom pretty much offer Kat,
Yeah.
money, everything. She turns
Everything.
it down.
So much.
She's like, no,
Why do you think she's turning it down?
I don't know.
Well, she wants to go to London.
But I don't even think she wanted to at that
didn't
point.
No,
really
she wants
wanna
to just
go
get
on.
out. She just
Yeah.
wants to get out.
I just think
wants to
she didn't
feel-
know what
Yeah.
to do
Right.
at that point. But yeah, it was just such a crazy mess there. I don't even know. But then she has this revelation, really, where she's like doesn't really know what to do, and she's just, I don't know. It was just so hard to watch because you feel like you think she's gonna kind of change her mind and she doesn't. And
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, I feel like she wants to be on the ice, right? Like, that is, I feel like, is always going to be her goal. That's her first love. But again, like I said, like, she needs to push herself past the fear. And right now, she's so stuck in this, like, what if it happens again? So she is, you know, like you said,
Yeah.
Emily, just trying to, like, find a way out. So this whole trip to London with the boyfriend
Yeah.
is just, like, a way to kind of escape what's going on. But
I mean, she's trying to escape all of her
Everything.
problems, like
Yeah.
home life, the ice skating that she can't. She feels like everything's over. Her other relationships with people in the city, like everyone, like so it's her. She's trying to escape, and that's
well, a good way for her to escape was Jen taking her out. But
Yes.
that was kind of a scam because we
Yeah.
find out that Justin set her up to it. And
well, and also we're missing a big character here is Mitch, who's the Serena's
Yes.
coach, who she confronts
Right.
because she feels like he might be doing some
Hitting on-
inappropriate
and
stuff
did
with
anyone
Serena.
else see that little flirtation with Carol and Mitch?
oh my
Oh, yeah.
God, yes.
That was
You guys.
some flirtation. That
Seriously,
was
she's like, oh my gosh, like the whole time.
yeah. Well, and all the other
Oh, she wants him.
all the other skate moms were like, oh,
Right.
They observed it as well.
Now
and
we
I
know why
think
you
that's-
hired him.
Well,
Wasn't
and-
for your daughter,
Yeah.
was it?
And what's crazy is like it's revealed like in the beginning that like in the first few minutes that Carol got rid of Kat's coach and then pretty much hired this other Mitch for Serena. So
Yep.
pretty much she's like, well, I'm not going to focus on you, Kat, anymore.
Right.
I'm going to focus on Serena.
Yep.
And so even with that put
fired
Kat,
her coach.
Yeah,
and-
that put Kat over the edge as well.
Totally.
And so she has so many things stacked against her.
So, Emily, I heard that you have a special segment for us.
Oh my gosh, I do.
Do you want to introduce it?
So I do want to introduce my special segment. So I'm going to share my theme if I was an ice dancer. So my songs of ice. So my 3 songs that I would pick that I would love to dance to, and you guys can share if you have ideas.
Yes.
So my first one would be Born This Way by Lady
Oh,
Gaga.
that's a
That's a good one. It's
Yeah.
up tempo.
And
That's
I
good.
looked at some other like routines, and I feel and there's some great routines you can do with it.
Yeah.
And then I heard this one on the radio on the way over here, and I loved it. Can't Stop This Feeling,
So good.
Justin Timberlake.
Yep.
I feel like that would be really fun. So it's a
Yeah.
little more up tempo. And then if you're doing, I feel like it would be a good pair skating song as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
that's
would
so
be
true.
good.
And then a classic, which I've seen many routines,
Have you?
would be I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston.
That is mine.
Oh,
Oh,
what
no,
is
is that
that?
yours?
I love
Yay!
it.
I
I
love
love it.
that
That's.
song.
I feel like
Because
ice skating's
that's
so
a pair
beautiful.
that is a pair skating song
Yeah.
that like you need to dance with someone and you need to like
feel
look them
it.
in the
It's so
eye
true.
and feel the song. And so those are my 3 songs
I
for
love
this
it.
episode. So please share your special song that you would dance to on the ice. We would love to hear it.
We would. I mean, I don't really have specific songs, but I had like 2 artists that was like I could mess up any of those songs. I'm obsessed with Chris Brown, so anything Chris Brown.
Yes, same. I love
And then
it.
I thought Michael Jackson, just because I was like,
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I
that's
think
a
it'd
good
be so to be like do a fun one.
That
like
would
a
be
cool-
fun.
Oh,
You
you
could
I
do
could
like a
just
fun
see like the
solo.
Yeah.
So fun.
But okay, so do we have any news?
Oh, we have a little news.
Let's get some news in there.
Yeah, so on Rotten Tomatoes at the moment, it's at 60%. But on IMDb, it is an 8 out of 10. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Scoring
good,
pretty high. 98% of the Google users like the show. So I feel like we're
Very good.
Oh,
kinda
that's not
climbing.
too bad.
And I
Yeah.
think it's just gonna get better.
Yeah, it's
I really
episode
think so.
1, so
Yeah,
I
it's
mean-
episode 1. We have so much to go.
So much to go. Of course, you know, right now because it's so soon and popularity is growing, but we just don't know if there's going to be a season 2 yet. But, you know, fingers crossed because I'm kind of into it. I'm really into the show. Matt Mashable said that Spinning Out is a bingeable, satisfying melodrama.
I agree.
Right?
I do agree too.
I love it.
So good. Well,
So
that's some great news. I'll tell you that. But so, I mean, one little last thing before we kind of wrap up here was kind of the ending to this episode, which was dramatic and, you know, kept you on the edge of your seat. So we see this fight between Carol and Kat, and, you know, it was really dramatic, and we saw the whole fight, and we end up, you know, she leaves. We end up finding out she just leaves the house, throws her skates out the car window.
Oof. Those are expensive too.
But then
She comes back and gets them.
she comes back and gets them.
Yes, she does.
What? That's the change of events, or like the change of thought, or whatever I had said before that I was talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
Why? Like, what made that was confusing to me as far as like how they did that.
So
I
this
didn't
is the
understand.
thing. You see her, you know, planning to go to London, meet her boyfriend. Then you see her, like, you see that he calls her and she does not answer the phone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So
And she like made that choice to not answer.
yeah, and she kind of like slept in her car. So I feel like she kind of had like a coming to Jesus moment. Was kind of like, you know what? Where are my skates? I'm gonna go back to this ice and I'm not gonna give up.
Well, she had a moment because I feel like she was like, oh god, it's like one of those things like you do it in the moment. You're so like irrational in the moment, but then you realize, oh, I made a big mistake.
Like that's what woke
And
her
ice
up.
skating
The fact
is
that she
such a-
threw them.
Yeah.
It's such a dramatic thing to do, and ice skating is so a part of her, and so for her to not have her skates, that's like the core of who she is.
And
Yeah.
I love the end where like she's driving back and it says "Welcome to Sun Valley."
Yeah.
Right?
The
It was
name of
like,
the episode.
yes, because she went
'cause
back.
She went back.
She
And
went back.
she went back, and that was so great. And one thing that I just wrote down at the end, my last like note, was we see Kat smile for literally the first time.
Right.
Yeah.
We didn't
Classic.
even. I didn't even know what her
Yeah.
teeth looked like. Not that it matters, but like, God.
Right? Show us a little
Yeah.
energy,
She's just, like,
girlfriend.
and like the face she gives at the end of the episode, just driving towards her.
It's almost a
Destiny.
little creepy. It's a
It
little
was a
creepy.
little
She
creepy,
had
but
the
it,
makeup everywhere. It was like a little
She
creepy.
was determined. She was
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna do this.
yeah, it
So.
made me like, what things do I need to actually go do right now? You know, like. But overall, it was a good episode, and I'm so
Loved
excited for episode 2. I hope you guys are too. So let's start out with you, Ebony. Where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Ebone Chatman 12.
Awesome. So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram and all social media platforms at Emily May Heller.
And you can find me on Instagram at McKenzie Fayne. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We are so excited to cover episode 2 with you guys of Spinning Out, and we'll see you next time. Buzz you later.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.